Everyone. I'm Michael Spencer. I'm excited to share with you someone that's very, very special, very important, near and dear to me because he's a veteran, right? And as a veteran advocate, I feel like it's my duty and my responsibility to showcase and highlight some of the skills that veterans bring to the workforce. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to all to Tony Richardson. But kind of set the stage, Tony. I'm going to take them back down memory lane of how you and I first met. So. The way I tell the story is it was 2012. I think you were coming out of a building and I was going in. And then that was the first time we met. You and I were both young Air Force officers. I believe you were a first lieutenant and I was the second lieutenant at the time. So very early on our career. But I think our friendship has kind of grown, matured, and developed since then, almost, 9-10 years later. So how goes it? What do you remember, Tony?
Hey, I'm Tony Richardson. Glad to be here, and you're 100% correct. We were at Dover Air Force Base at the time, and just out of curiosity, seeing there weren't many fellow African American officers that were around, and so I look over and I see it like, oh look, because we could count on one hand how many there were on the base at the time, and so I was like, hey man, how are you? What do you do? And once you pointed out what your background was, also prior enlisted, and a person who was leading in aircraft maintenance, we shared that tie because I had spent my career in aircraft maintenance, but it transitioned to being a professional or strategic communicator. And so from there, the brotherhood and fellowship has been amazing. And so I was on my way to Iraq at the time. I was getting ready to deploy to go and do some stuff with the State Department. And so being able to swap different sets of experiences with you over the years and just not only keep in contact, but also that friendship has been critical, has worked wonders. So I appreciate you. Appreciate this opportunity.
Likewise, I appreciate you as well. So, hey, let's kind of step back. So, give us a little bit more about your background. I think you kind of scratched the surface a little bit. Tell us, who is Tony Richardson?
Hey, so in terms of what I do now, so I'm recently retired from the Air Force. I am the CEO of Capital Catalyst Group LLC, where we offer all types of services from leadership, professional development, coaching, communication, strategies, and consulting and planning as well, especially in the area of crisis and executive communications. But more from an authentic perspective, I'm a car guy. I love to travel. I like memes, that just normal things. I look for ways to go and put other people in the game, like that empowerment. Those things really, really matter to me. So if there's ever a way that I can help others, that's really all I seek to do.
So there's a lot to unpack there, Tony, because when I hear about helping others, the first thing that comes to mind is servant leadership, right? So, throughout your experience from leading organizations you talked about, from, advising executives, what qualities would you say are most important for leaders at all levels? And the key word here is all levels. You don't have to be a CEO to be a leader. We knew some airman basics in our time that were leaders as well. So can you kind of delve into that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I've been fortunate enough to have such a wide array of experiences. Both, I got my start, what was your first job? I was a janitor slash, floor polisher, if you want to call it that. Like that was my specialty for a church. And so those sets of skills where you lead on ideas, what are better ways that I can go and bring efficiency to processes, those things have all mattered. And starting there in a little small town in Mississippi to where I am now, and along the way advising people for the Department of State, they're the embassy in Baghdad, along with spending some time in the corporate world with Coca-Cola, and spending a few years at the Pentagon, working at the highest levels of government. I kind of narrow it down to like the 3 E's, which are empathy, empowerment, and experience. John Maxwell will tell you on the empathy side that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if that isn't immediately evident in all of the interactions that you have with leaders, whether they're leading on ideas or legitimately have the title, it shows, and it makes it more difficult for workers to show up for them. The second one was the empowerment. And so I understand like Microsoft mission is to empower everyone to achieve more, like every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. That happens at very much an individual level. And so the empowerment of each person, no matter what their socioeconomic background or status or their mind set or attitude about the world, we go and embrace those unique qualities in order to find ways to build those shared values and shared perspectives so that when we have different opinions, we can still keep our eye on the same overall goal. And last but not least, the experience that we create. There's a different type of magic that's in the room when uh, the people who are all around you make it so that you want to be there. Like you don't notice the time, you just know that I have clearly found my purpose. I have clearly found a way in which I can be present for others. That magic cannot be replaced. There's companies out there that don't even have to say a word in their commercials. We'll put it that way. There's companies that don't even have to have commercials. And yet we still go back and buy into those brands. People are a brand as well. There are some people who you just know that once you're in the room, that magnetic personality is going to shine through because of the experience that they create.
I love it, Tony. You talked about empathy, you talked about empowerment, you talked about experience. I like to cultivate all of that because to me, it sounds like you've been operating with a growth mindset for years. Maybe you weren't familiar with the term, but that's just how you lead your life. I'm going to share a quote, if you don't mind. Um, uh, Dr. Carol Dweck is the author of Mindset, and what reminded me of you when I was reading this book is, as growth-minded leaders, they start with the belief in human potential and development, both their own and other people's. Instead of using the company as a vehicle for their greatness, they use it as an engine for growth for themselves, the employees, and the company as a whole. Hey, kind of tell us about what's being a growth-minded leader mean to you.
So that is a fantastic quote. That's a phenomenal read for anyone. If you haven't picked that book up, I highly recommend that you do, because those qualities that I mentioned previously, they're all part of, the type of attitude and the things that you have to embody and embrace, where it's not about me. So that's one of the first things that a leader really needs to say to themselves is like, hey, it's not about me. It's about the thing that collectively we're seeking to achieve. Oh, by the way, as leaders, we understand that not only do we have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable for growth to take place, but we also have to become comfortable with being vulnerable if we want the growth of others to take place. So being able to share, some of the things that not only represent, opportunities and strengths for the people in their development, but also the things that represent maybe threats or weaknesses to themselves and to others, but do it in a manner to where you're going to be in the trenches with them. Don't just be a consultant in their life where you give them some advice and then you're hands off. No, go and be more of a coach. Go and be more of that brother, sister, wingman, as we would call it in the in the Air Force, or battle buddies for the Army. Be in there and be present with them. Otherwise, the attitudes of those with whom we've said that we care about, they may drop off, and we may have missed an opportunity to go and help someone redefine or rediscover their purpose. And unfortunately, have set back not only the organization, but also the individual.
I love it, Tony. I love hearing your insights. What I want to kind of focus on is you talked about that vulnerability. So it immediately reminded me of Dr. Author Brene Brown, right? Daring Greatly. So that one's it's also a great read. You talked about being vulnerable. You talked about the growth mindset. So as a leader, I think it sounds like you're trying to do something new every day to learn and grow. So what are you currently reading, and what are you learning from that? What's
Uh,
Tony reading?
the book I'm currently reading is The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, which talks a little bit about, why we are at the position that we are regarding our country and some of the things from, the race relations standpoint. But it's presented in such a manner to where, hey, look, here are some of the facts, here's some of the policies and the things that have informed the decision making, and they also represent the things that we are working to overcome through all of our DE&I programs across not only corporate America, but also in the military and the nonprofit sector. And then even with democracy being kind of like the chief export of the United States around the world, it's important that we continue to embody those things too. It has not been pretty. There's certainly a lot of room to grow. We've seen a lot of things over, especially just like last week's incidents. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that as well. But you know, taking the time to be intellectually curious, that matters. And then on the mindset perspective itself, it's like because I always have like a book recommendation, and I like getting as many insights and perspectives as possible. Like, let's go pack them in and see what we come up with. So I'm a big fan of a Harvard Business Review. And so they're on their 10 must reads, they have one on managing yourself. And in it, a lot of these same things about, having a mindset or an attitude of gratitude or like those types of feelings so that you can be the best version of yourself. You can be what you were created to be on this planet. Uh, it's just a great collection of 10 must reads on that particular subject. So this is always one that I like to recommend when we talk mindset and
Nice.
self-development.
Being able to be the best version of yourself. You and I, we wouldn't be here because we truly stand on the shoulders of giants. You're well aware of that. And the reason I say that is because we're coming into a long weekend for many people. Not only is it my birthday on Monday, but a more important day, and that's Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and the day that we celebrate him. So can you kind of just, what are your thoughts, especially seeing the shirt that you're wearing? Kind of give me some insights to what that day means to you, what that day means to people of our culture. What are your thoughts, Tony?
So I so I'm currently in Prattville, Alabama. I'm literally 15 minutes away from Dr. King's first church here in Montgomery, Alabama. The Dr. Martin Luther King was also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, of which I also happen to be a brother. And so, when we look across our history of, developing leaders and providing service and excellence, that servant leadership within our communities and empowering everybody around us, regardless of our cultural differences, but empowering them to be the best versions of themselves and do so in a manner to where, it is done in an equitable and fair format. The weekend itself is a great time to go and reflect on those things. Have we made strides? Every day is an opportunity. Every interaction is an opportunity. We may not always understand why people have some of the viewpoints that they do, but we do understand that they are a product of the experiences and of some of the mindsets of influential people that they've come across at important times in their life. With that in mind as a perspective or the starting point, it's only from there where we begin to accept what is real and here that we can do any real healing and make any legitimate progress. And so I am, I'm always honored to even have like a remote association with these types of giants. Tuskegee University, home of Tuskegee Airmen, is also only 45 minutes from me. And so you and I, because of our shared veteran experience as Air Force members, you and I both know that our service would not have continued or looked the way that it did without the sacrifices, blood, sweat, tears, toil, and heartaches and hardships endured by those who've come before us. And those same types of qualities apply for all of the types of different categories of people, if you want to go and put labels on them, uh, as we fought for equity and inclusion. So I am a, this is a great introspective time for the country. We're getting ready to go into an inauguration, um, to really look ourselves in the mirror and say, how can we grow based on what we know?
I love it. All about growth, a positive message. Tony, I want to personally say thank you for your service. I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but less than 1% of the U.S. population actually serves in some sort of form of the armed forces. So for that, I'm forever humbled and grateful for the opportunities to have served with you, alongside you, in behalf of our nation. So thank you for joining on this interview. I really appreciate you, Tony.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you continue to do, and uh, really just putting people in the game. Like when you have the ability to create a platform, or you have one, it's how we use it that defines what type of character we're actually made of. So I am proud of you. I'm proud of everything that you do, and I always look forward to our conversations. So if you ever need anything, or any of your contacts, same thing. If you ever need anything, more than happy to help.
Great. Thanks, Tony. Talk soon.
All right, thanks. Bye.